You think you know your best friend. Mike Williams did. He'd known his since they were boys. Stood next to him at his wedding, hunted ducks with him at first light, bought his life insurance from him without reading the fine print. Because why would you? It's your best friend. So when Mike pulled out of his driveway in Tallahassee, Florida, before dawn on December 16th, 2000, his 6th wedding anniversary, and drove 50 miles to a duck blind on Lake Seminole, he had absolutely no reason to be afraid of the man waiting for him out on that water. For 17 years, the state of Florida would tell his family Mike drowned and alligators ate him. For 17 years, his mother would refuse to believe a single word of it. And what really happened that morning, and the deal the state of Florida had to make to finally hear it, is one of the strangest, darkest, and most genuinely disturbing cases to ever come out of the Florida Panhandle. It's still dark on Centennial Oaks Circle when Mike Williams pulls out of the driveway. December 16th, 2000. His 6th wedding anniversary is later that night, and he's planning to be home in plenty of time for dinner. He's 31, a real estate appraiser at a little firm called Ketchum, where he's worked since he was 18 years old. He's a Tallahassee kid who married his high school sweetheart, Denise, back in 1994, and they have a baby daughter at home, barely a year and a half old. By all accounts, Mike has the life. Steady job, a house he likes, a wife he's loved since high school, and a best friend named Brian Winchester he's known since they were boys. Brian was in his wedding party. They duck hunt together. They go to church together. Brian even sold him his life insurance. That morning, he's headed about 50 miles west to Lake Seminole, a big shallow reservoir straddling the Florida-Georgia line. Duck season. He's going alone. Or at least, that's what he tells Denise. Mike is, by every friend's account, a careful hunter, safety conscious. He's been on this water before. The plan is simple. Be out before sunrise, be back by lunch, take his wife to dinner. He doesn't come back by lunch. He doesn't come back by dinner. By evening, Denise is on the phone to family, and Brian, Mike's best friend, drives out to the lake with his own father to look for him. What they find at a remote Jackson County boat launch is Mike's Ford Bronco, parked and locked. His little aluminum boat is out on the water, drifting empty. No Mike. Florida Fish and Wildlife launches a search that night, but a storm rolls in fast, and they have to call it off. They come back in the morning. They come back the morning after that. For weeks. By some accounts, 44 days. By others, 56. Divers and sonar crews work that lake. And they find nothing. No body, no gun, no life jacket. The official theory lands on the only thing that fits the silence. Mike must have fallen in, drowned in his heavy waders, and his body must have been eaten by alligators. Now, here's the thing. Lake Seminole, in its entire history, had never had a drowning victim they didn't recover. Not one. Mike would be the first. But for now, that's the story. And 6 months later, the lake seems to confirm it. In June of 2001, an angler spots a pair of waders floating in the part of the lake locals call the stump field. Divers go back down. They bring up Mike's hunting jacket, his license still tucked in the pocket, and his flashlight. But when forensics look at the gear, something's off. No scavenger damage. No DNA. The items don't even look like they've been underwater for 6 months. Investigators note it. And then, somehow, set it aside. About a week after that gear surfaces, a Leon County judge grants Denise's petition to have Mike declared legally dead. The life insurance pays out, roughly $1.5 million. As far as the state of Florida is concerned, the case is closed. As far as Mike's mother is concerned, it's only just starting. Cheryl Williams does not buy the alligator theory. Not for a second. She knows her son. She knows that lake. And she knows that alligators in North Florida, in December, when the water is in the 50s, are essentially dormant. They do not feed. So she starts writing letters. To the governor of Florida. Just one, at first, then another, then another. Over the years that follow, she will reportedly write more than 2,600 of them. Every week, every month, she will not stop. And eventually, somebody listens. In 2004, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement takes the case over from the local sheriff and reopens it. Not as a missing person, as a possible homicide. Suspicion, very quietly, starts gathering around two people. Denise, who collected that insurance check, and Brian Winchester. Mike's best friend, who'd helped search for him, comforted the family, and just happened to be the agent who sold Mike that giant policy 6 months before he died. But suspicion isn't a case. And in December of 2005, almost exactly 5 years after Mike walked out of that house on Centennial Oak Circle, Denise marries Brian Winchester. To the people who already had a bad feeling, it confirms everything. To Brian and Denise, it's just two people who lost someone they both loved finding each other. They live in the same town. They raise Mike's daughter together. For a few years, that's the story. Then, somewhere around 2012, things between them go bad. Quietly at first. They separate. By 2015, Denise has filed for divorce, and Brian Winchester is, by every account, falling apart. And then comes August 5th, 2016. A Friday. Denise walks out to her car in a parking lot, gets in, and starts to drive. And a man sits up in her back seat with a gun. It's Brian. He's hidden in her car. He's holding a semi-automatic pistol, and he is begging her, at gunpoint, to call off the divorce. She talks him down. She doesn't crash the car. She doesn't scream. She just talks. And the second she's safe, she calls the police. Brian Winchester is arrested for armed kidnapping, and that same day detectives sit Denise down and start asking her, again, about Mike. Brian eventually pleads no contest to the kidnapping and is sentenced to 20 years in a Florida prison. And from inside that prison, sometime in 2017, he sends word to prosecutors. He wants to make a deal. He says he knows where Mike Williams is. He says he'll take them right to him. But he says, "You're going to have to give me something in return." In October of 2017, FDLE agents drive out to a place called Gardner Road in northern Leon County. It's a narrow rural lane off Meridian Road that just sort of stops in the woods, near a little body of water called Carr Lake. Dead end. Nothing out there. And they start digging. For 5 days, they dig. Now think about where they are. They are not at Lake Seminole. They are not 50 miles west on the Florida-Georgia line. They are in Leon County. They are about 5 miles from where Mike Williams grew up. On October 18th, 2017, they find him. Skeletal remains. Buried at the end of that road for almost 17 years. Cheryl Williams' DNA confirms what she has known in her bones since the morning her son didn't come home. The medical examiner, Dr. Lisa Flanagan, examines what's left. Cause of death: a close-range shotgun wound to the head. Manner of death: homicide. Mike Williams never drowned. He was never in that lake at all. And this is the story that comes out beat by beat of what really happened on the morning of December 16th, 2000. Mike was not hunting alone. He was meeting someone on that lake, someone he trusted completely. Out in the dark, in the stump field, that person pushed Mike overboard. The plan was for him to drown in his heavy waders, and to look exactly like the accident the state of Florida ended up believing in. But Mike didn't drown. He grabbed onto a tree stump and held on. And so the person in the boat lifted a 12-gauge shotgun, leaned in close, and shot him in the face. Then loaded his body into the boat, drove all the way back to Leon County, and buried him at the end of Gardner Road. In May of 2018, a Leon County grand jury indicts Denise Williams. She is charged with first-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and accessory after the fact. That December, a jury convicts her on all 3 counts. In February of 2019, she is sentenced to life in prison. But in 2020, Florida's First District Court of Appeal looks at the case again, and they find something that bothers them. They reverse the first-degree murder conviction, ruling the state never proved she actually aided or abetted the killing itself. The conspiracy conviction stands. In 2021, she's resentenced to 30 years. Which brings us to the part of this case that, honestly, I still can't quite get my head around. Because the man in that boat, the man who lured Mike onto the lake before sunrise, who pushed him overboard, who pulled the trigger of that 12-gauge, who drove the body back to Leon County, and who put Mike in the ground at the end of Gardner Road, was Mike's lifelong best friend, Brian Winchester. The same Brian Winchester who'd stood up at his wedding. The same Brian Winchester who, 6 months before the killing, had personally sold Mike the $1.75 million life insurance policy that funded the whole plan. And Brian Winchester was never charged with Mike's murder. Not one count. In exchange for telling that story on the witness stand against Denise, he was given immunity. His testimony, his word, almost alone, is what put her behind bars. Even one of the prosecutors, John Fuchs, would later admit on the record that the deal he had to make, letting the actual shooter walk away from a homicide charge, quote, turns his stomach. Brian Winchester is still in a Florida prison today, but only for kidnapping Denise in that parking lot in 2016. For shooting his best friend in the face on a duck blind at dawn on the morning of his 6th wedding anniversary, he was never charged with a thing. There's a version of this story where Mike Williams gets to be a footnote, a statistic, a man the lake took, the first one in Lake Seminole's history that nobody ever found. The only reason it isn't that story is because his mother wrote 2,600 letters, and because one Friday afternoon in a parking lot, the man who'd done it lost his nerve and climbed into the wrong back seat. And the only reason a jury ever heard the truth at all is because the state of Florida agreed to let the actual killer walk away from it. So I'll leave you with the question the prosecutor couldn't shake, and I can't either. When the only way to convict the person who planned it is to free the person who pulled the trigger, is that justice? If this case stayed with you, hit subscribe. We put out a new investigation like this one every week. And in the comments, I want to know, was that deal worth it? I'll see you next time.